After, okay.
Good morning, everyone. This is Carol Dimitrov for OPA Community Outreach, and today we have Arlan Wise. Arlan's presentation is going to be about writing for astrologers. Arlan's presentation will give you an opportunity to participate with these exercises. So if you do have a pencil and paper, by the way, it's really good to keep it handy. Why are good writing skills so important for your work as an astrologer? Arlan will answer that question and discuss how to hone your ability to translate the symbolic language of astrology into clear, concise, and easy to understand words in English or in your native tongue. Arlan will talk about where you can contribute your written work for publication. We will look at charts of astrologers who have made a name for themselves through their writing. And Arlan will ask you to do a bit of writing yourself. And a little bit about Arlan. Arlan has worked as a professional consulting astrologer since 1979. She has a BA from Brown University where she majored in Latin. She is a Certified Astrological Professional credited by the International Society for Astrological Research, ISAR. She is certified with the Organization for Professional Astrology, that is OPA, and she also belongs to the American Federation of Astrologers, AFA, the National Council for Geocosmic Research, NCGR, and the American Federation of Astrological Networking, and that is AFAN, as well as the Association of Great Britain. She is the past president of OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, and has done an amazing job for OPA, so thank you for that, Arlan. Arlan wrote the astrology column for the Martha's Vineyard Times for 17 years and is the editor of the Career Astrologer magazine and director of publications and products for OPA. She teaches classes ranging from beginners to advanced level and is available for lectures on many different topics relating to astrology, the intricacies of being an astrologer. She travels to teach writing workshops for astrologers and is a track leader for OPA at their retreats. Arlan will be teaching a writing workshop for astrologers at the October Zion retreat. Arlan feels that her specialty is in understanding the most positive aspects of the client's unconscious. She helps to pull them to the surface and explain them in ways that are easy to understand. She presents practical options and help encourage and I can do this attitude in her clients. And you can find out more about Arlan's work by reaching her at www.arlanwise.com. And with that, Arlan, it's
Okay, thank you for
your
that,
time to
Carol.
get started. You're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and let me know if anything technical isn't going right.
I will do.
Okay, so first thing we're looking at my little slide I found because I liked it and it fits in with, everything. And I suppose, are there people on the phone, Carol? Can you tell? Oh,
I'm sorry, Arlan. I keep myself muted. Yes, there are. There are a few people on the phone.
Reading everything on the screen. So we're starting with a little thing that says tomorrow, a noun. A mystical land where 99% of all human productivity, motivation, and achievement is stored. And that really holds for your writing because I find the hardest thing is actually just sitting down and putting the hands on the keys and doing it. Okay, so why do we write? We write to communicate. We write to exchange information. We write to teach somebody something they don't know. It's a way to show other people what you're thinking and how you think, and it's a way to clarify your own thoughts. When you see them down on paper, it's like, in a way, it's speaking it out, but if you're writing it down, you get a sense of, oh, yeah, I can see that. That looks good. When we see clients, which is basically, I think, what most of us do as astrologers, we communicate astrology to them and we give them valuable information. So it's very important to know how to translate and define the words that say and explain these symbols and tell them what is happening in the sky and how that it relates to their life. The more concise, clear, and specific you are, the more the client will understand what you're trying to tell them. That is why it is important to practice putting the information down on words, even if you're never going to publish and even if you're never going to, write for any other people to see it, if you write down some of this astrology just for yourself, like in a journal, it will help clarify this. So in a way, speaking astrology and writing astrology, it has a similarity, very much the same. And I see astrology as a language. We have our ABCs, our planets, our signs, we have our grammar, there are aspects, we have our textbooks, we have our literature, you know, and before the internet, I want to tell a story about the old days, you know, before the internet, we depended on the U.S. postal system to communicate and interact among astrologers. And there was a wonderful newsletter / magazine / pamphlet called Mercury Hour that was put together by a woman called Edie Custer. And it was the precursor of today's internet online forums. So you would write in your statement or your question and mail it out to Edie, and then you'd wait a month and it would come back to you and you'd see it published, and then you'd wait another month and see what people thought about what you had said. And you could write in to add your thoughts to existing statements. So it was fun, it was educational, and it put you in touch with other astrologers who you didn't know existed, or you might you know, have heard their names, but this is a way to get to interact with them. So Edie Custer gave a big gift to astrologers, which is why I want to mention it. And Edie had Mercury in Aquarius up on her midheaven. It just fits so well what she did. And so she was well suited to bring the astrological community together by writing, through writing. I also used to receive a monthly newsletter that was written by a woman called Eleanor Bach, B-A-C-H, and we're going to look at her chart later on. And she used asteroids. She was the asteroid lady. And so she would send out this newsletter that it would come, a monthly forecast, and it would come in the mail. And it was great. It was a great way to learn astrology, and it was also a great way to, you know, read astrology and see how what she was saying was relating to, you know, how you went through your day and through your month. So everyone can write. Let's see if I can shift. Okay, now let's get there. Here's a little comment. Everyone can write. Stephen King, my writing hero. When he asked, how do you write? He says, one word at a time. William Faulkner says, don't be a writer, be writing. Isaac Asimov said, writing to me is simply thinking through my fingers. I like that a lot. So some people write better than others. Some people love it more than others, but we all can write. Now, I've noticed that there are some people who have words that just flow freely out of their mouth, and they can stand up and they can just say everything they have to say, all organized, without having to write anything down. Think about Rick Levine. Think about Sandra Lee Serio. They're masters at talking. And then there are those of us who are not so quick on our feet or through our mouths, and I'm definitely one of them. Those other group of us is where the words come through our fingers. And so I find it's much easier to write than to talk. I have written this talk out because otherwise I would probably forget to say the things I want to say, and I might freeze or I might get distracted. But if I have it written down, I won't lose my train of thought, and I will be able to give you all the ideas that I've had. Now, the prime directive on writing is omit useless words. Writing without extra words, clogging up your sentence, makes it easier for the reader. So think of it as a gift to the person you're writing to be concise. Think of how many times you've put down an article you've been reading, and this is astrology and non-astrology. You haven't been able to get through a book because it was so dense. There were so many words that just weren't doing anything that you couldn't get through to the end. Think of how many self-published books you've picked up and this is big in the astrology community, where people are self-publishing, and if they haven't been through the rigorous cutting knife of an editor, it's very hard to be able to read those books. And I'm not talking about the size of a book, because I just finished Chris Brennan's 600-page masterpiece on Hellenistic astrology, and 600 pages is a lot of words. But very few of them are unnecessary or needless. They all meant something, and I really learned about Hellenistic astrology. Now, one way to see if you've done a good job from your writing is to, and if you've done a good job cutting and omitting, is to read your work out loud. You'll hear where the excess is, because you'll stumble over the places where it's too wordy, where the words aren't written well. And at some point in the writing workshops, I have the writers switch computers and have somebody else read what you've written, and there's just a real aha moment when you hear your words coming out of somebody else's mouth, and you say, oh, I can cut that. Oh, that doesn't sound right. So it's always useful to read it out loud. The basic rules of editing, and no matter how big or small your piece is, you always want to self-edit even before you give it to an editor, is cut by 10% and kill your darlings. All those really cute things that you think that you know, you love so much, those are probably the ones that an editor is going to say, it's got to go, it's got to go. You know, and then another thing to keep in mind is I've just found this really wonderful book on writing by a man called Steven Pinker. It's called The Sense of Style, The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century. And he has this very useful concept called the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge, which is a difficulty in imagining what it is like for someone else not to know something that you know. Pinker says that it is the single most reason why good people write bad prose. He also says, when you've learned something so well that you forget that other people may not know it, you also forget to check whether they know it. He's talking to astrologers. This is so useful for what we do in our type of writing and in our client work. You must assume that your readers are intelligent and sophisticated, but they are not, but you cannot assume that they know something the way you know it. Think about that. So we all, as astrologers, I believe, are afflicted with this curse of knowledge. You'd say to we say to a client, oh, your moon is in Libra. And that can mean nothing to the client unless he or she is an astrologer or has been studying astrology. So you need to keep the jargon, but then explain it with plain words. Your moon, the part of you that responds to life like the moon in the sky reflects the light of the sun and symbolizes how you handle your feelings, is in the sign of Libra. So it giving you a kind of emotional self that will try to make peace and harmony, because it needs another person to bounce your ideas off and bounce your feelings off of. Do you see what I mean? You need to be specific. You need to probably go over the edge and be specific in just trying to get your reader to, understand it. And it's so hard. I just love this concept. So the two takeaways from this talk are: omit needless words and don't assume that the person you are writing to or speaking to knows what you know. Now, in both my writing and my consultations, I like to explain astrology by using images. When I explain a Pluto transit, I will ask the client to think about a plant dying back in the fall and then popping up with its new growth in the spring. I suggest that the dead brown ooky leaves are really what Pluto is asking you to leave behind, that you just is of no more use to you. And this is what you need to let go of when you go through your process of transformation. And then there's always the caterpillar turning into a butterfly metaphor to describe the Pluto transit. So that I take it a step further, and I suggest to someone who's in the middle of a Pluto transit that they are in the middle of the chrysalis. They are turned into a big gooey mess, and they don't know who they are right now or where they're going to be, when they end up. And so saying things like that give the person a way to envision Pluto is and what he does. The client may have come into the session thinking that Pluto is a planet, maybe a dwarf planet, maybe not a dwarf planet. And he's at the outer edge of the solar system, and some may know he's Lord of the Underworld. But he can always picture a butterfly coming out of a chrysalis, or a tornado sucking him up like Dorothy and Toto and dropping him in a whole new place. And also, listen to your clients as they give you back these images, because, well, they're trying to understand it. I had a client who used to work as a whitewater raft guide, and when we were talking about her Pluto transit, she said, "Oh, it's like riding down the rapids without an oar." And she got it. So when you write and speak in images, you give the reader an active part in the communication. And it also gives them permission to see their butterfly as totally different from your butterfly. And it stimulates their imagination, which leads to greater understanding. So seeing it in their mind can make a deeper, easier to remember impression. And I think it fits in with this curse of knowledge, that once they can grasp it through visualizing it, as an image, then, it's easier for them to understand. So I've been talking for a while, so now we're going to do a writing exercise. You don't have to, this isn't school. And one other thing I want to say about writing is, if you want to do this, you take your first impressions, no censoring, and you have to take that voice of that high school or junior high school teacher who said you didn't do it right, and just throw them away, wash them away. Okay, so we're going to talk about images. I want you to take 2 signs and create your own images for them. For example, Aries is the ram. But I see Aries as a fireman rushing into a burning building. See Taurus as an old elm tree that's got its roots deep in the ground and has been there for 200 years. I see Scorpio as an iceberg, fixed water. And an iceberg has 10% above the surface and the rest below the surface. And I see that as Scorpio. So let's take about 4 or 5 minutes and take 2 signs, any 2 signs, and try to create your own images, just a sentence or 2. And then when I say you're done, and I just put some random pictures here for you to look at while you're thinking about your images, you can type them on the chat screen, or you can read them out loud, whichever you'd like to do, and we'll just go through this. Okay, so let's start writing. Now, and it's quiet. So it's a quiet time in the writing workshop. Keep it simple, just your first impressions. But create your own images on the signs. Okay, Mike, I see you've you did it beautifully. Very nice. We'll give everyone another couple of minutes, and now we're starting to post. This is great. And then I can read some. Well, I guess as you're finished, you can start to type them into the chat box. And then I can read them for the people who are on the phone and can't see the chat box. Yep, everybody gets it.
Arlan, would you like to read some of them off?
I'm going to give everyone another couple of minutes to put them in.
Sure. This way, those that are on the video
yes.
will be able to hear the information. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. They're starting to kind of come in now, so I'll give everyone another couple of minutes to type them in, and then I will start to read them. Just give another minute. Yep. Yay! Everybody's doing it. Okay. So maybe I will start reading the top one. So we have. Yep. Everybody got it. It's great. Mike. Towie, wait a minute, here we go. Pisces. Oh, wait a minute. It's hard to read and as they're typing in, wait a minute. Pisces, the space behind a waterfall used for meditation. Very nice. Also, Mike wrote, okay, I'm going to read it. We lost you. Sagittarius, a firefly traveling in a straight line. Pisces. Aola wrote, Pisces, the freedom of swimming in the open ocean. Great if there is no desire to anchor, but can be disorienting if one would like to land. Yeah, very good. Okay, let me try to get back. Aquarius, the view from a mountaintop. Jack wrote, Scorpio is an ancient communal fire. It burns from the center of the earth. We all feel its warmth. Joanna Rader wrote, Libra, rose mist you spray as a cosmetic on your face. Kay Taylor, Pisces, a gentle mist rises from a warm pool of water. You can almost see through the mist, lingering, dreamy, and mystical. As it touches the walls, its beautiful images form in the steam. Aries, an athlete jumps out of bed and runs for the joy of it, sweat glistening on her powerful body, no sense of anyone or anything in the world but love of breath. Wow. Sean, Sagittarius, a forest fire that spreads far and wide. Yes, I use that a lot. Alice, Capricorn, a tree whose roots are buried deep and reaches through a strong trunk through to the sky. Anna, wait a minute. I'm having trouble moving the Carol, I'm having trouble moving the chat box thing. Carol?
Yes,
No?
okay.
Okay, I'm up to Alice, but now a tree whose roots are buried deep and reaches through the strong trunk. And then Anna, for some reason my chat box isn't, my little thing, there it goes.
You got it?
Anna,
Okay, because like I said,
yeah.
I could read it too if you'd like.
Okay, okay, Cancer, full moon illuminating the ocean. Simona, Cancer, a young woman swinging on a crescent moon. Jack, Virgo is a summer breeze. She goes everywhere and creates her delicate magic for those who can see her. Pisces, a giant squid swimming through the sea, deep sea tentacles flowing. Oh good, everybody did this. So glad. Aquarius is the timeless Pamela. Aquarius is a timeless, ageless truth seeker who is holding up the lantern to cast light on what needs to be understood. Angela, Gemini, two neighborhood women chatting from the windows of their house. Yes, you can definitely see that. Okay, well, there's another one. Mary, Scorpio is a caterpillar because a butterfly wants everyone to know they can do the same. Devin wrote, Gemini, two middle school girls who are becoming best friends, sharing secrets and gossip with each other. And Lauren wrote, Cancer is a bright blue spiral moving inward, all energy felt, hidden, and expressed. These are great. Okay, so you got the sense that on one hand, this has freed us from those 12 little glyphs that we tend to use when we explain. Now, when you're talking to your clients, open it up. Cancer is a bright blue spiral. They say that moving inward, and use these images to explain. And when you're writing too, because it's a sense of the explanation is what gets rid of the curse of knowledge. That's the other side of it. I had another picture just to say, is this a Pisces picture? Or is this a Cancer picture because it's actually moving water? Okay, that happens to be a waterfall in Iceland. So, wasn't that fun? Oh, and there's one more. Sagittarius, the arrow that flies high, observing and falling back to earth to educate what it has learned. Very, very good. So wasn't that fun? I hope everybody had fun. So now I'm going to talk some more, and then we're going to look at charts. So writing is done below the horizon, right? It's found in the third house. It's associated with Mercury, who rules the third house and the sixth house. And no matter where in the chart he is placed, he still rules those two houses below the horizon. So when we look at charts and we want to understand writing abilities, writing tendencies, potentials, we look to Mercury, we look to his sign, we look to his house placement, we look to the planets he's interacting with, and his dispositor. We often see that Mercury is his own dispositor in the charts of authors. Then we look at the third house. Third house, the planets in the third, the sign on the cusp, the ruler of the third, aspects to the ruler of the third, the dispositor of the ruler, which gives us information about one's writing ability and one's style. So now we're going to look at some charts. Let's see. Now I have taken charts of people, a small sample of astrologers who have written books, and these are older astrologers. So in a sense, this may be a little like a history lesson for those of you who are younger, which I think just about everybody at this point is younger than me. And so since I can't see hands, if this were like a normal class, I'd say, how many of you have heard of Robert Jansky? And you could type a little Y for yes or N for no. I'm just kind of curious. Okay. And then I'll tell you I'll give you the birth information for the people on the phone. Robert Jansky was born October 10th, 1932, 5:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Hackensack, New Jersey. He started working as a biochemical and bacteriological researcher. He became involved in the Mercury and Apollo space programs with this background, and then started studying astrology in 1965. He founded his own publishing company called Astro Analytics in 1971, and he produced a number of books. And when I was studying medical astrology, these are the books that really helped me: Astrology, Nutrition, and Health, and Introduction to Holistic Medical Astrology. Excellent books. He also wrote a very excellent basic book on eclipses, and he took his Introduction to Planetary Patterns, which I think is only available as a download from the internet now, and he amplified Mark Edmund Jones' Planetary Patterns, and even came up with a new one, which he did a lot of great work. So let's look at his chart. You can, those of you who can see it, he has Mercury in Libra, and Venus is ruler of Libra, is in Virgo, so they're in mutual reception, but he also disposes, he's a dispositor of his own sign. Oh, and let me just say, is as we're looking at the charts, if anything comes up and there's something you want to add, just jot it down and bring it up at the back. Because if we start, putting a lot of time into one person's chart, we're not going to get through all of them, which I kind of want to do. So let's talk about, Jansky. So look at his Mercury. It is in a cardinal grand square in cardinal houses. It is no wonder that he wrote a lot, that he did a lot, that he had such, an incredible, public career life. We see, and once again, can you see my little mouse? I'm trying to use it as a pointer. It's sticking a little bit, but
yes, we can, Arlan. That's perfect. Okay. You can use your mouse for that. Thank you.
It's not behaving. That's the only other thing. So anyway, let's just take a look at the fact that the Sun is square Saturn, Mercury is square Saturn, which is a really good thing to have because Saturn keeps you working, Saturn makes you finish, Saturn has you edit. A connection to Saturn is very good for a writer. It's connected to Pluto. That's the biochemical work. That's the medical work. It's opposite Uranus. This is a very good symbol for an astrologer. So we have this very, very busy Mercury. The third house is, and he's someone who can, keep busy and get a lot done. His third house is empty, and we look at Jupiter being the ruler of the third, and Jupiter sits right there in the 12th, very interesting placement, close to Neptune and close to the South Node. And it's in Virgo, bringing forth information. You can kind of look at that Jupiter South Node in the 12th as someone who will bring useful information from the past, wisdom from the past, and be able to communicate it through the third house. Somebody has his birthday out as October 25th, huh? Okay, I'm reading these too. I got all these things from, all my information from Astrodata Bank. So I hope this is, I hope I'm right. Okay, so that was Jansky as a chart. Now let's move on to Richard Eidemann. Here we have another brilliant astrologer. He taught seminars with Liz Green as well, and that's where I got to hear him, as well as having a large client base and many students. He died before he could write down any books. He never got around to it. And so just think about that, because you never, ever know. Everyone kept asking him to write, and he just never got to it. So his friends published his lectures and his seminars in 2 volumes, Through the Looking Glass and the Magic Thread, and they're wonderful reading. They're excellent astrology. When I heard him teach, I heard him describe the power of stationing planet this way. He said, when you run your finger across a candle flame, it doesn't hurt. We all do it as kids. He said when you stop your finger over the candle flame, it burns it. And that is the power of a stationing planet versus a transit. It was an image. He taught in images, and that image has stayed with me longer, as you can, and I mean, this was back in 1980 something when I heard him say this, longer than anyone else's description of a stationary planet. This is the power of an image. It stays with you, okay? So that was Richard Eidemann, and we look at a Mercury in Aquarius, no surprise for a brilliant astrologer, trying a moon south node in Gemini. So the information, once again, poured through from the past. Mercury is, I have some notes so I don't forget, his Mercury is square Uranus, who is one of the rulers. I use both rulerships when I look at charts. So Mercury is square Uranus, the modern ruler of the chart. And Mercury is, and then we have Saturn in Aries, right next to his Mars as the old ruler of the chart. And one of his excellent work was on anger, fit right in with that Aries symbolism. What else did I want to say? The Mercury is in a wide connection to Jupiter, who is the ruler of the third house. And if we use whole signs, then we have 4 planets in Aquarius, and we'll mush Mercury in with them. And Mercury, of course, sits right next to his sun in Aquarius in the 5th. So there is a creative, futuristic, wonderful thoughts. And the other thing I thought about this, since he is an author who was published posthumously, I kind of wondered if that is being shown by having the ruler of Mercury in the 8th house. Something to think about. I also had a wonder about, look up at the Chiron in Gemini, and if Chiron is where we have our feeling of inadequacy, if that didn't have to do with the fact that he never sat down and wrote out his words and published. That's just another thing to just kind of think about. Okay, now, this is Eleanor Bach. Remember I mentioned her earlier? She is the asteroid lady. She is the, wrote her monthly newsletter, and I believe that she was Demetra George's teacher. And even though I don't use asteroids, I had to look and see where they fit in her chart, and the one that really stands out, so you'll just have to put it in mentally into your chart, into this chart, is her Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and communication, I would assume, is at 14 Libra, which is right on her ascendant by her north node, by her Jupiter. And so this is a wonderful signature for the asteroid lady, as she was known, the original asteroid lady. Now, her Mercury is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And I know there's a lot of thought about 29 degrees, but it's just always something to mark when you see it. And it's in the 4th house, which fits for someone who taught and worked and wrote from her home. Mercury is what, oops, let's go back to it. I actually had all these notes I wouldn't forget. Let's see, her Mercury is in Capricorn, and it is, you know, conjunct her sun. It's dispositor Saturn, which is in the 12th, exalted Saturn, which brings it back, and it's in mutual reception with the Venus. Very nice. 3rd house is Jupiter. And Jupiter is highly prominent, and remember I said it's right next to Pallas Athena. Very prominent Jupiter, and it's on the rising on the ascendant. And her Jupiter is trine a moon in Gemini, and moon in Gemini gives people great communication ability. I mean, these are the talkers and the writers, so with an ease that they have. Sometimes too many words, but still, you know, just just fine. So what else did I want to say? And Jupiter is square the sun and wide square to Mercury, which is once again a good, a good combination. Now let's move on. I read this fast. Here's another lady who I hope everyone knows, and if you don't know about her, we all owe her a great debt, because Marion Marsh was a wonderful astrologer, and she was the one who actually started UAC, started AFAN, and was a very important woman in the astrological community. Her work is called, she wrote with Joan McEvers, the series called The Only Way to Learn Astrology. There were 6 books. They're brilliant. The Only Way to Learn Astrology, The Only Way to Learn Astrology Volume 2, which talks about calculations, The Only Way to Learn About Tomorrow, The Only Way to Learn About Relationships, The Only Way to Learn About Horoscope Analysis, The Only Way to Learn About Horary and Electional Astrology, and I think those are the ones. So we look at Marion March, and interestingly enough, here is her Mercury at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Now, since she was, I did something I was supposed to, I didn't want to forget. I was going to, let me read out birth information. Okay, we go back. Richard Eidemann was February 8th, 1938, 9:37 p.m. EST, Akron, Ohio. Ellie Bach is January 11th, 1922, 12:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Coltmont, Pennsylvania. And here we go back to Marion, February 10th, 1923, 3:46 a.m. Central European Time in Nuremberg, Germany. It's got 2 little umlauts over the U. So she did her writing in a language that was not her childhood birth language. I wonder if that's Mercury retrograde. You know, a lot of things in astrology you look at, you wonder, and you can never say it's definitely this or that. But, that's one thing that's, and her Mercury, we look to her Saturn, and once again, we have this square, Mercury square Saturn, very good for getting work done and getting your writing out there and edited and being concise, and exalted Saturn right up in the 10th house. So she was able to, get her work out there. Her 3rd house is ruled by Aquarius. It has 2 planets and a node that are in 2 different signs, which is also very interesting, considering her 2 languages. Uranus, her Uranus ruler, if we look at Uranus as the ruler of the 3rd, is in the 3rd, making her ability to communicate very strong. If we look at Saturn as the ruler of Aquarius, then we're back up to that exalted Saturn in the 10th, which is trine her Sun in the 3rd house. She was a hard worker, she was a hard thinker, and she got a lot done. And what else did I want to say? If you look also back to the Uranus, which is in a grand trine in water, and just note that it's interesting ruler. So this is with Jupiter and Pluto, so she was able to get a lot, as I said, accomplish a lot. And let's see, she wrote in her 2nd language. Saturn was in the 10. She was a lady who got things done. And then, I know we're going fast, but we only have an hour. Joan McEvers was her writing partner, was also a very talented astrologer. February 8th, 1925, 6:34 a.m. Central Standard Time, Chicago, Illinois. She was a co-founder, first president of the Aquarius workshops. She wrote these wonderful series with Marion March. She also wrote other books. She was an editor of a Llewellyn series, which was kind of like run like our OPA books, where there would be a theme and then different astrologers would write different chapters. And so what do we see here? We see Mercury next to Venus in Aquarius. And so that's, here we have our astrologers with Mercury and Aquarius showing up. Let me see what else I want to say about that. It's square to Mars, and so this is active. She's driven. She would sit down, and probably the words just had to come out of her. Her third house has the Mars in it. It's ruled by Mars. So we have ruler of the third in the third, which is a nice, once again, a nice thing to see, very positive. And where am I getting? We have, and I'm looking at, what do I want to say? Just a slow, methodical writer. She has Mercury in the 12th house. Someone just came to the door. I'm not sure what to do. I can't talk to you now. Oh boy. Mercury came to, okay, Mercury is in the 12th house with Venus. Okay. What I want to do, even though, okay, here we go. So they were a writing team, so I want you to look at their charts side by side. Now, given that they are born only 2 years apart and their birthdays are 2 days apart, they're very much the same. Their suns are 1 degree apart. Their Mercuries are 1 degree, 2 degrees apart. Their moons are trine. Jones, Uranus, let's see where I found this. Jones, Uranus is conjunct Marian's south node. So these projects, they probably have done this many, many times before. They probably came in as a team. And so, but the thing to learn from this is if you're going to have a writing partner and you're going to work with someone, if you find someone who thinks the way you do or and is close to you or as compatible as these two are, it's going to be really easy. Now, we have someone who's alive, an alive astrological author. I asked his permission. So, and he's January, this is Stephen Forrest, January 6, 1949, 3:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Mount Vernon, New York. I'm also born in Mount Vernon. I kind of take pride that Mount Vernon gave us 2 astrologers. And so he rectified, Stephen said he rectified his time, and so to use this one. And I'm sure everybody has heard of who he is, and he's written, besides being a wonderful teacher and giving a lot of workshops, he has written quite a few books, and they're all good. And he's written on quite a few topics. He's got beginning astrology, he's got evolutionary astrology, he's got, he's done the mysteries. So I want to mention that. This book, Anubis Rising, I don't know if you haven't heard of it, go get it. It's the first it's a mystery where the person is an astrologer. And it's really well written. It's fun. So let's look at Stephen's chart. We see Mercury at 29 degrees Capricorn. Isn't that odd that of our small little sample, we have 3 of the astrologers with their Mercuries at 29 degrees Capricorn. And you can't draw any conclusions because it's way too small a sample, but I just thought that was very, very interesting. So it's in Capricorn. Mercury in Capricorn is once again this very precise, this very, what would I want to use, very exact, to the point way of communication. And yet it sits next to Mars in Aquarius, our astrology symbols, and he's busy. He wrote a lot. He wrote a lot. Mercury is its own dispositor because we look to Saturn and it's in Mercury's sign. And with Saturn in Mercury up on the midheaven, on a Mercury mid, he writes, he talks, he's someone where you're going to get good information from. Now, if we look at the Mercury in Capricorn in conjunct the Uranus in Gemini, and we could, probably have a really long discussion on this, but since I'm the only one talking, I'll just say what I think. is that here is Uranus and Gemini that is bringing in so many new exciting ideas, and it's filtering into that Mercury and Capricorn, who is saying, I can only write one at a time, and it has to be done, and I can't think about it till I finish the next sentence. So that is probably a major, stress in his life about how to incorporate all these ideas into good prose. Because when you read Stephen Forrest, you're not reading useless words. And Saturn rules the third, and there it is in Mercury's sign, very prominent. So he, is prominent. Okay, now, we're running out of time because I want to do it and open this up. So I'm going to skip. But I want to talk about her as one of our non-astrologer authors, because she is right back in the news today. Margaret Atwood, who is, oh boy, let me find it. Okay, she's November 18th, oh dear, I'm sorry about this. She's November 18th, 1939, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Ottawa, Ontario. She's an author. She's a very well-known author. She writes about women's. She is back up in the news today because of the book that she wrote in 1985 called The Handmaid's Tale, which was a fable about a totalitarian theocracy that comes over and subjugates women. It is, I looked today, the paperback is #1 on the New York Times bestseller list because it's like scarily, it was like scarily, what we want to say, prophetic. And so here, what do we have here? We have a Mercury conjunct Venus, so it's going to novels, very easy to read, beautiful work. In Sagittarius, let's find her. Let me see if I have my notes on her. In Sagittarius, and she, let's just wing it. Okay, and Jupiter is up in its own sign in Pisces in the area of groups, organizations, right? Politics, perhaps. The third house is ruled by the moon, and we have a moon Mars in Aquarius, and it is, what would I say, futuristic. She was able to take that cold futuristic look at what is, happening. Pluto being in the third house, is this very serious. Her books are not, women's romances. Her books have deep meaning. So I just wanted to quickly show you that because times are moving. So let's go back to talking. So one of the ways we learn astrology is by writing. In the 21st century, there are many opportunities to post our writing. Facebook is one, blogs, websites. And if you have a website, I think it's important that you write and you change it. That you write and you challenge yourself to change the text at least once a month on the website. Keeps it alive, keeps it dynamic, keeps you writing. There's the OPA forum to write for. You can submit your material to journals of different astrological organizations. Everyone is always looking for material. And here's a big plug for writing for the Career Astrologer, our OPA quarterly journal. We now, because we put it online, have thousands of online readers, and it is translated into other languages. And, because someone wrote after our last issue that said she felt that what we produced in the Career Astrologer rivaled the Mountain Astrologer, and maybe we should print it and publish it. and sell it. So I think we've upped the quality a lot. And it was a great compliment. And of course, we're proud of the work we're doing with the Career Astrologer. So since you're all OPA members, I know that if you're listening to this, please send me your ideas and send me your articles and let me know, especially if you have an idea for an ongoing column, because we're trying to do interesting things. So, you know, an ongoing column would be great. That's why we started this pet column. That was just something kind of fun and different. And do write for the question of the month. You get it in your emails, and if you're not getting it, tell Carol or tell Carol, and you know she can figure out why you're not getting it. Think of it as something that you're doing for yourself. You know, like taking a good exercise class or eating a healthy meal. Write for the answer to the question of the month. It's easy, and if you do it right away doing your first impressions, it's not a big chore. It's just like answering an email, but you're writing. Also, include astrology in other things you write. I took a writing workshop a few years ago, and every prompt and everything we had to write on was, you know, I added astrology. And as I read it aloud, people liked it, you know, and they were waiting for the astrology parts. So that was fun. So send your writing out there, let people hear what you think, and let you hear what you think by writing it. Just want to mention again that I'm doing a writing workshop at the OPA retreat in Zion in October, and it'll be 3 days of what I just tried to do squinch into an hour. We'll be looking at charts, we'll be writing all types of things, we'll be looking at your charts, we'll be learning more writing techniques. I'll read interesting things to you, and it's always a lot of fun. People who take the writing workshop always have a good time. I just wanted to mention that. So now, according to my watch, we've got about, you know, 5 or so minutes. So let's open up to questions, because I see there's some questions coming in. So Carol, do you want to, okay, you're the guy, okay. That's what I was going to say. Oh, just look at this, you know, if these are the 4 books I've picked out of all the books on writing that I would recommend. On Writing by Stephen King, brilliant. The Elements of Style, which everybody refers to, it's your basic grammar book. It's more than grammar. It's the, like, writer's Bible. Elements of Style by Strunk and White, same E.B. White who wrote Charlotte's Web. The Sense of Style, this new book I found by Steven Pinker. And for astrology, you want to get a hold of the Rulership book by Rex Bills. That will also help. And let me get on to me, so you actually get a thing of looking at me. So now, Carol, how do we do questions? Should I read them or answer them or what?
I have a couple of comments here and questions. Yeah. Marlene wrote, regarding Itemin, whole sign houses put all the Aquarius in the 5th of creativity, which is interesting.
Okay.
And then right. Lauren wrote, are the retrogrades a factor?
Probably. I think, yes, that they would be the retrograde Mercuries, because my understanding of retrograde Mercury, if you're born during retrograde, you have a more intuitive way of thinking. It's more, even if it's a linear Mercury, you know, it's a very right brain Mercury. And once again, we have images. When I have a daughter who is a Mercury retrograde, and the first time I had her chart done, the old woman Laurel Lowell said, you know, she is retrograde Mercury. Make sure that teachers never say that she is dumb, because she's going to learn differently. Retrograde Mercury needs to take all the information and, you know, kind of osmotically put it together themselves. So that's how I've always thought. That's the image that I've kept about retrograde Mercury. So yes, I'm sure it is.
Thank you. Mike Towery wrote, using metaphors as images for the placement of planets by sign and house gives an added meaning to the transfer of information. Travel across the with words.
Yes. Nice.
And Lauren wrote again, how about doing an ongoing writer's workshop with you as our mentor, which we just talked about the Zion retreat. So Lauren, please join us.
Yes. And hopefully, I can we did it at iAstrologer. I can get in and do more at iAstrologer,
Yes, Arlan is extremely active with many of the workshops, so I'm sure you'll be hearing more about Arlan's work. And again, go to her website periodically and check to see what she's doing, what she's up to. And Mike also wrote, thanks, Arlan, for an excellent and well-researched presentation.
That's sweet.
Pamela wrote, Arlan, you are inspiring and so helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of nice compliments. We also have, by the way, just to acknowledge, we have a lot of people here from Turkey. So thank you so much because I know the time difference is really difficult, in the evening for you, late in the evening. So thank you again for those who are international who are joining us. Yeah.
And I hope you,
and Angela from Greece. And so we have quite a international community joining us. So thank you all for joining us.
Now,
and Arlan, did you have any closing words?
Well, I wanted to know if anybody had any questions or any comments about any of the charts. And those are my questions. Okay. And if you don't, I'm going to send you home with, I had another writing exercise in case I spoke too fast and ran out of time, which it looks like I didn't. So you can just take it home and ponder it and do it on your own. But how about 4 sentences? Because when you give a certain amount of it, only has to be 4 sentences. It's the limitation you need, so you don't, go on and on. 4 sentences on why Saturn is my friend. So maybe that's my closing statement.
I'm going through my Saturn return, so I'll be able to write some interesting things, I'm sure. Another quick few comments here. I'm not seeing any more questions, but I am seeing a lot of thanks. Enjoying your presentation. It was great. Let's see. We've got from Gay Alkin. It was great. Thank you, dear Arlan, with a smiley face. Ellen Zucker wrote, enjoyed your presentation. Zarin from Turkey wrote, thanks a lot, Arlan and Carol. You're so welcome. Devin, very informative. Thank you. Angela Tiki, thank you very much, Arlan. Very helpful from Mary, Kay Taylor, Jean, Sean, loved the talk. First time to hear Arlan speak. Great, Sean. Sarah wrote, very inspiring. And Mary, thanks, Arlan, enjoyed it, and the writing exercises too. So just going through these very quickly, Twink wrote, great job, Arlan. So everyone really enjoyed the presentation, and I think that this is something we should revisit again.
Okay, and I see Jack, wrote, Atwood's retrograde Mercury is behind the sun. She looks at society from afar. That's an interesting comment. I just wanted to bring her up because, you write books and you send them out there you don't know, and then all of a sudden this book she wrote in 1985 has come flashing back into the, collective unconscious because of the political situation. And everyone says, uh-oh, could it really, really happen? It might really, really happen. So if you've never read the book, you might want to. It's interesting. And I think they're making a TV series out of it. But, Margaret Atwood is, a very prolific writer. So, so I tried to do my 3 days in this 1 hour, and I hope it went okay.
Oh, it went beautifully. Pamela also is asking if it's okay to send you a question privately.
Oh, yes. You've got my email. Let me go back to what happened to my...
Yes, and Arlan, for those of you that received your OPA community outreach email, Arlan's website is also located there, and
I have
also get it with the presentation as well. So you'll have it several times.
And I have, there we are. That's, you can also email me too if you want to send me what you write or you want a question or anything.
And that's wisearlan@gmail.com or www.arlanwise.com.
Yes, but usually email me directly. It's easier.
Okay, so wisearlan @gmail.com.
Yeah.
And Arlan will be happy to. Anna wrote, thank you again for great insights. Margareta, all the way from
from Sweden.
From Sweden, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for this inspiring talk. I loved it. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
Sean
you.
wrote he loved it.
Oh, sweet.
Lauren, and do we send it to you? Lauren, I'm thinking, yes, go ahead and send her question directly to Arlan.
Or what you write, or your Saturn thing. If you want me to send me your 4 sentences on Saturn, you know, that's fine too.
That would be lovely. So anybody that wants to write their 4 sentences on Saturn and send them to Arlan, she's willing to take a look at that for you. That's wonderful. And I think, let's see, I'm going through these very quickly. I think we pretty much, thank you, Carol, too. You're so welcome, Lauren. I think we pretty much got all of our thank yous. And it was a wonderful presentation, Arlan. We really appreciate your contribution to OPA and all the work you do for us.
Yes. I'm OPA's fairy godmother is what Maurice calls me.
I love it. You just need the wand, right?
Yeah.
We have to get you a wand, Arlan.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate you joining us. Please keep an eye open for the next OPA Community Outreach email. It will have the copy of the link for the presentation that you saw today. And also keep an eye out for your next newsletter, which will tell you about our up-and-coming presentation that we have in June. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.
I just want to say that Arlan's wand is her pen.
Oh, thank you.
That's beautiful. Who is this? Is this
Ellen?
This is Ellen with laryngitis.
I didn't recognize your voice. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Who's going to be writing for our pet column?
Yes, yes. I just got back from Blog Pause.
Okay.
Which is a conference of pet bloggers, you know, so this is right on topic. Your timing is fantastic.
Beautiful. Well, we look forward to seeing your work in a career astrologer, Ellen. Thank you so much for joining us.
I got inspiration. I'm working on it, and you will have it. You will have it by the deadline because I have Saturn square Mercury, so you will have it by the deadline.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.